Feeling like you're constantly juggling too much, maybe wishing you had a natural way to boost your energy, sharpen your focus.
Or maybe even see a little extra progress in your physical performance.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into ashwagandha. It's an ancient remedy that's really creating quite a stir in modern wellness circles.
hmm It really is. We're doing a deep dive into Withania somnifera, that's the scientific name. It's this fascinating herb with a really rich history in traditional Ayurvedic medicine.
Right.
For centuries, people have prized it for its ability to kind of revitalize and help the body cope with stress. And now, modern science is looking at it for exactly that, and maybe even for things like impacting testosterone levels.
Yeah, you're probably hearing about ashwagandha more and more, and you might be wondering, does it actually live up to the hype?
That's the big question.
So our goal in this deep dive is really to get past the buzzwords and explore the science behind it. We'll break down how ashwagandha seems to work, look at the evidence for its benefits, things like testosterone, mood, muscle strength, libido, general well-being, all of that.
And we'll also cover potential drawbacks,
Right.
side effects, how it might interact if you're taking other supplements.
Absolutely. The mission here is for you to walk away with a much clearer picture of whether ashwagandha might be relevant for you, for your own health.
Okay, so to really get ashwagandha, the first thing to understand is that it's an adaptogen.
Adaptogen. Okay.
Yeah, think of adaptogens as substances that basically help your body become more resilient to stress, almost like a thermostat regulating temperature when things get too intense.
And the key active compounds, those are the withanolides, is that right?
That's it. These withanolides, they're thought to interact with the body's main stress control center. That's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or, the HPA axis.
The HPA axis, right?
And one really interesting idea is that some withanolides might connect with GABA receptors, specifically in the hypothalamus part of the brain.
GABA. That's the calming neurotransmitter, the one that helps us relax.
Precisely. So, by potentially engaging those GABA receptors, ashwagandha could sort of promote calm within the hypothalamus.
Oh.
And here's where it gets kind of interesting for hormones. This calming effect might then set off a chain reaction, signaling the body to release hormones that ultimately lead to producing testosterone. It's indirect, definitely.
So it's not directly boosting T, but managing stress allows the body to do its thing better.
That's a great way to put it. It highlights how managing stress really can impact your hormone levels, but there's also a more direct link to cortisol.
Ah, okay, the stress hormone itself.
Yes, that's another critical piece.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha seems to be able to moderate excessive cortisol release. It might do this by interacting with brain receptors, possibly even glucocorticoid receptors.
And we know high cortisol is bad news for testosterone production.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sustained high cortisol levels can really put the brakes on testosterone. So, by helping keep cortisol in a healthier range, ashwagandha basically removes a major roadblock for healthy T levels.
And it's not just about hormones and stress, is it? The sources mentioned antioxidant effects, too, and anti-inflammatory ones.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial. Ashwagandha has been shown to boost the body's own natural antioxidants, things like superoxide dismutase, glutathione peroxidase.
The body's cleanup crew.
Pretty much. They fight oxidative stress that damages cells and can mess with hormone creation. Plus, it helps lower inflammation markers throughout the body.
Right.
Think about it. A body dealing with chronic inflammation just isn't in the best state to make hormones efficiently, or even produce healthy sperm, for that matter.
So it's kind of creating a better internal environment overall.
That's a perfect summary. And we shouldn't forget its impact on the nervous system either. We mentioned GABA earlier. Its influence on those GABAergic pathways can really contribute to better sleep quality.
And wow, good sleep is critical for, well, pretty much everything. Hormones definitely included. Libido, too.
Absolutely. Poor sleep is a known factor in lower testosterone, and it can definitely impact sexual function negatively. So, by promoting better sleep, ashwagandha offers this sort of indirect support there.
Okay.
And interestingly, the info also touched on possible benefits for women's sexual health. Now, this research is still emerging.
Sure.
But its balancing effect on the stress system and sex hormones might, just might, play a role in improving arousal and satisfaction for women.
So putting it all together, ashwagandha seems to work on, multiple levels. It's calming the mind, dialing back stress hormones, supporting the endocrine system.
Exactly. It's quite holistic, really, aiming to bring the body back towards balance, or equilibrium, which naturally leads us to the big question. What's the actual scientific evidence say?
Right. Let's get into that. What does the research show? The information we looked at points to several key areas, starting with testosterone and fertility.
Yes, and there are actually a number of clinical trials suggesting ashwagandha supplementation can lead to, well, a noticeable increase in testosterone levels in men. One study mentioned specifically looked at healthy adult men. After just 8 weeks of taking ashwagandha, they saw rises in both testosterone and DHEAS. That's another key hormone, plus improvements in muscle strength and size.
Wow, okay, even in healthy guys. What about men maybe struggling with fertility?
The results there look quite promising too. A study focusing on men with infertility found increases in LH luteinizing hormone and testosterone, plus better sperm count and motility, both really crucial for fertility.
Definitely.
And perhaps the most striking finding from that study was a higher rate of pregnancy among the partners of the men taking the ashwagandha. Suggests a real-world impact.
That's huge news for couples facing those challenges. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to stress and mood. This is probably what ashwagandha is most famous for.
Absolutely. Its reputation as an adaptogen is really well supported by research. Studies with adults under chronic stress show it can significantly lower morning cortisol levels, that key stress marker, and also reduce self-reported anxiety. Many participants in these studies also just felt better mood, better overall well-being.
And like we talked about, lowering stress probably helps the testosterone side of things too. It all seems linked.
Precisely. You ease that chronic stress burden, the body's just in a better place to produce testosterone. The information also mentioned some early research hinting at benefits for depression symptoms and maybe mental focus too.
But more research needed there, especially on the cognitive side.
Yeah, definitely points that out. More investigation needed for cognitive function specifically.
Okay. So benefits beyond hormones and stress. What about the athletic world? There's growing interest there too, right?
That's right. We're seeing randomized trials showing improvements in muscle strength and also in how quickly muscles recover after exercise.
Ah, recovery. That's key.
Definitely. One study highlighted took young men doing resistance training. They got 600 milligrams of ashwagandha a day for 8 weeks. Compared to the placebo group, they had greater gains in muscle size, strength, and that testosterone increase we mentioned earlier.
Those are the kind of results that athletes and fitness enthusiasts would definitely pay attention to.
For sure. And it seems to go beyond just strength. Another study found ashwagandha improved cardiorespiratory endurance, VO max, and it didn't seem to reduce muscle damage caused by tough exercise.
Interesting. It lines up with that traditional use as a rejuvenator, a tonic.
It really does. It connects the ancient wisdom with modern science quite nicely.
So whether you look at tradition or the lab, the idea of boosting physical capacity seems consistent. Now, let's talk about something many people are curious about. Sexual health. Libido.
Right. Ashwagandha has that long history in Ayurveda as a natural aphrodisiac. There's even that traditional description saying it gives the strength of a stallion. Yeah. And modern research is starting to back this up. By potentially raising testosterone and maybe promoting nitric oxide production, which is crucial for blood flow.
Right, for erectile function.
Exactly. Ashwagandha might indirectly improve libido and erectile function through those mechanisms.
And is there actual research data on this?
Yes, there was a meta-analysis, a review of multiple studies on herbs for male sexual health. It linked ashwagandha supplementation with increased sexual desire and satisfaction in men.
Okay.
Now, research in women is, again, a bit earlier stage, but there are hints it might help with arousal and orgasm, possibly by reducing anxiety and helping balance hormones. But it bears repeating, more research is needed, specifically for women here.
Seems to be the pattern promising signs, but need more studies, especially for women.
That's a fair assessment. And finally, the information touches on some broader wellness aspects too, things like sleep, immune function, even thyroid health.
Let's cover those. Sleep is a huge one for so many people.
Well, that influence on GABA pathways we discussed seems to translate into real improvements. Trials show it can help people fall asleep faster and improve overall sleep efficiency, meaning, more quality, restful sleep time. And as we keep saying, better sleep helps everything else, especially hormones.
Absolutely. And the thyroid. That's another area people are often concerned about.
Yeah, the information suggests it might offer some support for thyroid function, particularly in people with what's called subclinical hypothyroidism. It noted ashwagandha might help raise levels of T4, a key thyroid hormone.
But there's a caution there, right?
A very important one. If you're already taking thyroid medication, you absolutely need to be cautious and talk to your doctor, because ashwagandha could potentially increase T4 levels too much, effectively giving you an overdose if your medication isn't adjusted.
Definitely critical advice. Okay, and lastly, immunity.
Yes, those immune-boosting and anti-inflammatory effects we mentioned earlier,
Right.
they suggest it could potentially make you more resilient, help fend off illness. It all comes back to that overall balancing effect.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of potential upside with ashwagandha, but of course, we need to talk about the potential downsides too. Side effects, risks. Let's get into that.
Absolutely essential. While it's generally considered well tolerated, especially at recommended doses, some people do experience side effects.
Like what?
Well, the most common ones seem to be mild gastrointestinal things, nausea, maybe some diarrhea, general stomach upset. Taking it with food often helps minimize that.
Good tip. Anything else?
Mild sedation or drowsiness can happen, which actually some people use to their advantage, taking it in the evening to help unwind.
Okay.
Headaches that could occasionally pop up. And there are these anecdotal reports of more vivid dreams, maybe linked to its calming effect on the nervous system.
Interesting. Now, what about those potential hormonal interactions we mentioned, like with testosterone?
Right. Since it can influence T levels, there's a theoretical possibility of interaction if you have conditions sensitive to hormones or if you're on hormone therapy.
So, caution advised for TRT users or those with certain cancers.
Yes, the info advises caution for people on testosterone replacement or with hormone-dependent cancers, just because of that theoretical risk of boosting androgens further. But it's important to stress, these interactions aren't well documented in practice and are likely pretty rare.
Got it. And are there specific groups who should just steer clear altogether?
Yes, generally, pregnant and breastfeeding women are advised to avoid it. Traditional texts suggest high doses might interfere with pregnancy.
Okay.
And again, that strong caution for anyone on thyroid medication, talk to your doctor first, because of that potential T4 increase we discussed. Adjustments might be needed.
Right. Definitely consult a doctor there. And the info briefly mentioned rare liver toxicity. That sounds kind of concerning.
It does, and it's true there have been isolated case reports of liver issues linked to ashwagandha. However, the information really emphasizes these are very uncommon, especially given how many people use the herb. They're often thought to be sort of individual, unpredictable reactions.
So rare, but something to be aware of.
Exactly. It underscores the importance of responsible use and being informed.
Makes sense. Now, people often talk about combining ashwagandha with other things. Any notable synergies or interactions to know about?
Yeah, it does seem to pair well sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
In Ayurveda, it's often traditionally combined with shilajit, that mineral-rich substance aiming to boost energy, testosterone, fertility effects.
Okay.
And another popular combo you hear about, especially for guys looking to optimize testosterone, is with Tongkat Ali.
Ah, yes. Heard of that one.
The thinking there is ashwagandha helps reduce the stress suppression of T, while Tongkat Ali might work more directly to stimulate production or free up testosterone that's already there.
Sounds like a potential 1-2 punch for that goal. What about combining it with other adaptogens?
Yeah, you can definitely use it alongside others like, say, rhodiola, Panax ginseng, or holy basil. You might choose a combo to target different aspects, maybe more mental focus with rhodiola, or extra relaxation with holy basil, depending on what you need.
And any interactions with medications we should highlight again.
Definitely. The key ones mentioned are potentiation, meaning it could amplify the effects of sedatives.
Okay, makes sense given the calming effect.
Right. Also amplifying thyroid hormone medications, as we discussed. And it could potentially enhance the blood sugar lowering effect of diabetes meds. So anyone on those types of medications really needs to consult their healthcare provider before adding ashwagandha.
Crucial advice. Okay, so beyond the main research benefits, the info also mentions some more anecdotal, maybe less discussed effects. What were some of those?
Yeah, some interesting ones. Some users report that improved sleep quality comes with like really vivid dreams.
Yeah.
There's also this sort of subjective feeling. Some people describe a greater sense of calm confidence, feeling more centered or grounded.
Mm-hmm.
For women, there's some anecdotal buzz about potential benefits for thyroid and hormonal balance, maybe even helping with that stubborn abdominal weight gain, sometimes linked to high cortisol.
Interesting. Anything for the physically active crowd?
Some athletes mentioned it seems to help with their post-exercise recovery, less muscle soreness, getting back to training faster. They sometimes call it horsepower for recovery.
Horsepower. I like that.
And then taking the long view, based on tradition and some ongoing research into neuroprotection, there's this idea of potential general anti-aging or long-term wellness benefits from consistent use.
So not just fixing problems now, but maybe contributing to overall vitality down the road.
That's definitely a core idea in its traditional use, yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly thorough, a real deep dive.
Mm.
To kind of wrap up, it seems clear ashwagandha is this ancient herb with a whole range of potential benefits.
Uh-huh.
And importantly, these aren't just based on tradition anymore. There's a growing body of modern science backing them up, especially around stress, testosterone support, and just general well-being.
That's a good summary. But, like we've said, it's crucial for you, the listener, to remember that individual results can really vary. And being aware of those potential side effects and interactions is absolutely key for using it responsibly and safely.
Absolutely. So as you process all this information, the evidence, the way it might work, even those less common effects, maybe take a moment to reflect. What aspects of ashwagandha seem most compelling for you personally? And thinking about your own life, what further research or maybe even careful personal exploration might be worthwhile as you consider how managing stress and supporting your hormonal balance could impact your own health and vitality? Definitely some food for thought.